It is an honor to be interviewing today my favorite orthodontist in the entire world, Dr. Marie Gorczyca. You're an amazing person at so many levels. This is so exciting for me today. You just finished your second book, correct?
Yes, and thank you, Howard. The pleasure is all mine.
So you, before we talk about your second book, first of all, I don't want to draw into the fact that you're a woman, but I really feel like I have to because things have changed since I became a dentist. When I was in dental school, Doc, there was only one girl in the senior class. And now I'm in a dozen dental schools each year, and it's half women. And you were telling me the other night at dinner that when you got out of school, it was even hard for a woman dentist to get a job.
That's correct. And I'll just share one thing with you. When I was in my residency program, I was the only female resident with 11 guys. And I showed up the first day for my residency and I was like, oh boy, here we go. But, you know, my classmates were like my brothers. And now in 2014, I'm happy to report that at University of the Pacific Dental School, we actually had one class that was 7 women and 1 male student in the orthodontic program.
Wow.
So the women are here, especially in the field of orthodontics. I just want to bring your attention the other night when you were at the Sacramento District Dental Society. The president of the Sacramento District Dental Society was also a woman orthodontist, and we probably should have gotten her in the picture with you as well. So,
and the new elected president of the ADA, is she the second woman now?
Probably, I'm not sure, but the American Association of Orthodontists, last year we had our first female president.
So I know you weren't expecting to be interviewed with this question, but the first question I have to ask you, and because I'm not qualified to answer it, is I have been hearing women dentists tell me for 27 years since I graduated, I don't get it, Doc. The male doctor tells the 5 or 10 women staff to do something, and they just go do it. And then I tell them to do something, and they give me a completely different reaction. So my first question to you, and I want to highlight this when we're pushing out this podcast, is it different for a woman dentist, doctor to manage, in dentistry, 98% of the employees are women. Is it different managing women if you're a woman and they're hearing their leadership from a woman as it is from a man? Some women tell me that girls grew up and their dad would sit in the chair and say to their wife, give me a beer, and she'd jump up and go get him a beer, and it was never the opposite. So is there something in the childhood growing up at home where women employees respond differently from a male doctor who might remind them of their dad or grandpa versus a female doctor who might remind them of their mom? I mean, I always tease my 4 boys that when they were growing up, if they fell down or hurt themselves or anything went wrong, they ran to mom. And then if they got an award or a merit badge or something exciting, they came and showed it to dad. Is there a difference in managing women if you're a woman versus a man?
There are pros and there are cons. So let me first tell you the pros, okay?
So you're saying there is a difference?
There is a difference. Well, obviously, there's a difference between men and women, and you spoke about this Tuesday night at your talk. Women communicate more. Women talk more, they communicate more. So let me give you an example. If I have an undesirable behavior in my office, I will immediately take that team member aside quietly and say, I noticed that you said this. Next time, I would really appreciate it if you didn't say it this way, if you said it this way. And the team member would say, oh, okay, thank you. I didn't realize it. And it would immediately be nipped in the bud. The communication is very good. The teamwork is very good. The team meetings are very good. That's one positive aspect to a woman manager. The communication is very, very good. On the opposite side, I think you hit the nail on the head when you said some women will probably jump a little higher, a little faster when given a request by a male dentist versus a female dentist. That in the short run, that is a positive, but in the long run, there's a negative that the communication is not as forthcoming. And I think a lot of male doctors, in my opinion, from my friends that I have in the dental world, they tend to keep things in a lot. You know, if they have a gripe with a team member, they don't address it and they keep it in sometimes for months. And then maybe eventually it will blow up where they come forward and say, you're driving me crazy. But I don't think they communicate so readily on a daily basis. So I would say
I saw it raising boys. You're bothering me, you're bothering me, you're bothering me, and all of a sudden I just clock you one. And it wasn't until I saw, little boys, clock each other before the other boy realized, am I doing something wrong? And that's what you're saying. That exploded.
Yeah. The other thing I've noticed is I think female dentists or orthodontists, they tend to relate better to their team. So for example, going out to dinner or going to, Thursday night little get together after work is not a big deal. It actually brings the team together. Where I've had some male dentist friends of mine go to a conference and say, oh, I've got to go out to dinner with my team tonight. And they almost dreaded it. So I think that's another difference that I've just noticed with my colleagues.
Then let me ask you this one-liner. There's so many one-liners in management. There's so many fad management. Your employees can't be your friends. You got to keep a distance. Why are you going to dinner with your team or going to happy hour? Why are you having a little get together?
I think once a quarter for teamwork, for camaraderie, for trust. I think at least once a quarter, the team, including the doctor, should go and do something outside of the office. And in terms of teamwork, one of my favorite teamwork people is Coach K from Duke University. And he would always say in his books that he's written that he would have the team over to his house because he felt that he gained a lot of valuable information about what was going on in their personal lives, and that he could be a much more effective coach if he knew his team well and he knew their families well. So I'm not advocating that you're best friends with your team. I think you should keep a little professional distance and keep your personal life a little bit separate. But I do think you should get together at least once a quarter outside of the office to sort of let your hair down and get to know each other on a personal level.
You had to bring up hair already? Only 7 minutes into this, you're pointing out I'm a short, fat, bald guy. Hey, dentists are always too legal-esque for me. They won't let their hygienist read an x-ray because they say that's illegal. And I'm like, okay, are there any hygienists in jail for reading an x-ray? A lot of dentists say to me, I don't want to meet my staff after work for dinner because if I pay for the dinner and she had a couple beers and stacks the car on the way home, I'm liable for her DUI casualty. What would you say to that dentist?
Well, I think you have to watch the professional behavior at the event. I'm not saying that you go to that extent. And I think you've especially got to be careful going in the car with one of your team members. And this is a strange thing. I'm glad you brought it up because as a woman dentist or as a woman professional, I was always taught and told that one thing you have to watch out for is try not to go in the car with your colleagues, because no matter what you're doing, someone in town is going to say, hey, did you see, the two of them in the car? So you have to keep a little bit of professional distance. And
I like that. Whenever a dentist says, well, I'll swing by your house to pick me up, my first thought is, no, I want to drive my own car because I want an exit strategy.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
I just
and everyone is responsible for themselves.
Yeah.
But so you have to be, you have to have limits. However, you don't want to be in, how can I say this? Untouchable, distant, not approachable manager or coach of your team. You want to be in there with them.
Okay. I want to ask you about leadership. When anybody meets you, they're probably wondering, were you just a natural born leader? Are you just naturally born good in music or singing or athletics or leadership? or is this something that's been a journey for you? I mean, were you hardwired, born a leader? Did you learn? Because a lot of dentists, I mean, face it, most dentists resemble more of an engineer, a scientist, a physician, a dentist. When anybody says, describe a dentist, quiet, shy, introvert, you're gregarious, you're warm, everybody loves you. Were you born that way, or can a dentist become a better leader?
Well, thank you, Howard. I mean, that's a compliment. I don't really see myself that way, but if you see me that way, thank you very much.
You are. Trust me.
Thank you so much.
You are.
Gee, I don't really know how to respond to that. I think that inherently, I really, really love people. I love being with people. Just like you. I mean, you're the most gregarious person I think I've ever met or seen. You're the same way. So I just think I really love people, and whatever activity I'm involved in, I give 100%. You know, I don't waste time on things that I'm not passionate about. So maybe that's what you're talking about.
Well, so then let's jump to I want to, before we talk about your new book, what made you write your first book? Talk about your first book. Tell the viewers about your first book, how they can buy it. What made you write that book?
Well, I've been teaching over at University of the Pacific Dental School for many, many years. I've always been in education. But the last 10 years, one of my girlfriends, her name is Dr. Maureen Valley. We were at Harvard School of Dental Medicine together. We were at the Harvard School of Public Health together. And we did our master's degree in public health, health management and policy together. And Maureen took over as the clinic manager of the orthodontic residency program at University of the Pacific Dental School. And when she came, she said, Anne-Marie, let's put together a business management course for the residents. And I said, Maureen, that is a fantastic idea. Let's do it, you and I. So she put it together. It was every Friday afternoon. And I told her, Maureen, the 6 topics that I'd like to speak about, that in my opinion, everything I've done in orthodontic practice the last 25 years can go into one of these 6 categories. And those 6 categories are marketing, teamwork, treatment coordination, customer service, management systems, or human resource management. That basically there's not a single thing that I do in practice that doesn't fall into one of those 6 categories. And I decided to start with marketing because I truly do think that when you start a practice, the most important thing is the marketing. The very first year when you open your doors, you've got to know how to get known in the community. And if you open a practice from scratch, the way I did, you want to do that relatively quickly. So I thought the thing that would help the residents the most would be if we started with that lecture. And I was fortunate to be asked to give that lecture at the American Association of Orthodontists national meeting. I gave it 3 times. I gave it in Chicago, I gave it in Honolulu, Hawaii, and I gave it this year in New Orleans. And people came up to me afterwards and said, could they hire me? Or, you know, could they buy my book? And I thought, well, gee, I better write this book because people want this information. So that's why I wrote the book. I really wrote it for the residents, but, you know, I wrote it so it could be a resource for everyone in dentistry.
What I want to ask, and I'm going to ask you online, so I can throw you under a bus to get this answered. My gosh, I would kill to have you create an online CE course on Dental Town. We put up 255 courses. They've been viewed 600,000 times.
Oh my goodness. Well, I'd be happy to do it. You just tell me how to do it. I'll be happy to do it.
Oh, I would love that. And Howard Goldstein, Hogo at dentaltown.com, is the guy who does this. He's in Bethlehem, Pennsylvania. And another thing we're pioneering now is these young kids are multitaskers. And a lot of them just cannot sit down and read a book. They'd go crazy. And audiobooks are the rage. At Amazon, audiobooks and ebooks have taken over print. I wish you'd take that book and read it.
I will do that. I haven't gotten to that yet, but I'll call my publisher. this afternoon, and I'll do that. I noticed that Fred Joyle did that, and that's a good idea. So I will definitely do that. Thank you for that recommendation.
In dental school, they're all telling me that I like to listen to my CE when I'm on the treadmill. They tell me Saturday mornings I have about 4 hours of work to clean up my apartment and do my laundry and wash dishes, and I listen to ebooks or audio podcasts for about 4 hours. So let's go. Can we go through those 6 topics? Marketing, teamwork, treatment coordination, customer service, management system, and give me the low-hanging fruit of those 6? Or what did you want to,
let's talk about the young dentists. Let's talk about the young dentists for a minute, because obviously I want this podcast to help people. So let me give a little bit of advice to the young dentist. May I do that?
Absolutely.
Okay. When I opened my practice in Antioch, California in 1996, first of all, I went to a community that needed me. And that's the first thing I would tell young dentists is don't necessarily open a practice where you want to live. Because the most beautiful areas in the United States, let me give you an example, Pacific Heights, San Francisco, right? I mean, how many dentists do they need? I would tell the young dentists, look at the demographics, look at the population ratio, and go to a community that really needs another dentist. So when I opened my practice, that's what I did. I did not know anything about Antioch, California. I was 35 years old. I was living in an apartment in Walnut Creek, California. And I turned on the 10 o'clock news. And the feature story that year was Antioch, California, fastest growing community in Northern California. No, fastest growing community in California. 7 new elementary schools being built. Parents wait in line to get their kids into kindergarten. And the first thing I thought is, wow, they need an orthodontist so badly. Okay. So somewhere in the United States, there are communities like that where there are not enough dentists.
Now, where were you living before you moved there?
Before Walnut Creek, California?
When you moved to open up your practice.
Well, I had been in California since 1991. I originally was teaching at UCSF for a few years, and then I transferred over to UOP. And before I opened my practice at age 35, I worked in a group practice for 7 years.
But the point I'm making is from where you were living when you were working at UOP to your office, how far away was that?
From Walnut Creek, my office is 35 minutes.
Okay.
35 minutes away. Now, the other thing I did was I went to the community. I found an office which had been deserted. I found a dental office which had been deserted. And it already had the chairs, it already had the plumbing, and it literally cost me $30,000 to start my practice. And I had that paid off in 1 year. There isn't any reason why young dentists can't do that. Find an office that's been deserted. It doesn't even necessarily have to be a dental office. It could be some other medical office. But, don't get in huge debt. Just get started. And I didn't put in 7 computer terminals. I put in 1. And when I needed more than 1, I put in 2. And just gradually, I built up my practice. Then I went to a new building. And that's where I am now. I'm in a professional building that's 3 stories high with 13 dentists. And I'm right on the first floor.
Okay, so in marketing, you talk about first, go to demographics. Don't just go where you want to live. I mean, I see in California, within a mile of the ocean, there's a gazillion dentists. Then you drive an hour inland, and there's not. So in marketing, you're saying first, let's find a place that actually needs you. Great advice.
That's correct. You've got to drill for oil where the oil is.
Great axiom. I love that. What other thoughts on marketing?
Well, marketing is divided into 3 segments, right? You've got internal marketing, which is the marketing to your patients. You've got public relations marketing, which is marketing to the community. And then you've got relationship marketing, which is marketing to the other dentists and other dental professionals in town. So if you want to talk about internal marketing, one of my favorite things to do for internal marketing is to have a patient appreciation party. Every year I have a water park party. I invite every single patient I've ever had contact with in my database. And if nothing more, it tells your patients that you appreciate them. They get a phone call from me. I use Televox. I think Televox is one of the most powerful tools you have in your office. You have the capability to call every single patient in your database. And think about a campaign, Howard.
I got to stop you with Televox. A lot of dentists saying Televox. What did she just say? T-E-V-E-L-O-X? Or
T-E-L-E-V-O-X.
And what is Televox?
Televox is a company. They make websites. They do phone messaging. What I use them for is mass telephone service. So just like when the politicians called you last week and asked you to vote for them, you have the ability to go into your computer database and call every single patient in your database.
So is this a piece of software you bought one time, or is this a service?
It is a service that that I have continued to use in my practice, and I feel that I cannot live without it.
And how much does a service cost, and how often do you have this, like a politician calling all your patients and leaving a message?
Well, it started out with Televox that I used it for my summer splash party. And it was very, very effective because even the people who don't show up for your party, they still hear your voice. They say, wow, isn't that nice? She invited us to her party. Oh, by the way, I need to get in and get a new retainer. Or, you know what? I need to get Johnny in for an orthodontic evaluation. And it's a reminder. And it gets people into your office. Now, one thing I do in my office that I love doing, and it's in my book, is every month I call 750 patients in the database to just say, have you been wearing your retainer? Your orthodontist cares. Please call us if you need any additional treatment. We're looking forward to hearing from you. And any patient I've had who's been out of treatment for 10 years, I call them because I want to make sure they've been wearing their retainers and that their teeth are still straight. Now, since I started doing that, a remarkable thing has happened. My patients now, 27, 28 years old, they're bringing in their children for orthodontic treatment. So it's a great way for an orthodontist to reach out to the next generation of patient.
That is amazing. And how much does this Televox cost you a month?
Oh, it's maybe, don't quote me, but it's like maybe $199.
So very low cost.
Yeah. And for $199, you have the capability of calling 750 patients a month. So I use that service to call 750 patients a month. And it's the off season and not the summer splash party. I give the retainer message when it's the summer splash party season, probably starting January 1st. I start inviting people for the summer splash party, which is in July.
So you talk about demographics, go where you're needed, drill oil where the oil is. You talked about a Televox. What other types of marketing?
Well, I'll tell you one other story for internal marketing. Okay. You saw my picture yesterday when I was the sales girl on the vegetable stand in Massachusetts, right, Howard? My grandmother from Poland taught me when I'm there as the sales girl, be nice, smile, give everyone something and tell them they're special. Okay. So I was sort of brought up, give your patients something. I don't care what it is. I don't care if it's a poem. I don't care if it's a sticker, a bracelet. But leave them better off than when they came into your office. And I'm going to tell you a remarkable story. It's about my mother, and it's in the book, and it's called The Power of a Pencil. And it goes like this, and this is a true story. My mother was a principal of an elementary school, and her elementary school had a bookstore. One year, the bookstore made a big mistake. Instead of ordering a gross of pencils, which is 144 pencils, they mistakenly ordered a gross of gross. So that was 20,758 pencils. And they were all engraved with the name of the school, so they could not be returned. So making the best of the situation, my mother decided we're going to have a school-wide pencil sale. We're going to sell these pencils for $1 each. They earned a lot of money, and they took the money and they decided they were going to have an international year at the school of art, poetry, and culture of every student in the school. So she sent around a questionnaire to get the nationality of every student in the whole school. And even if she had one child from Ethiopia, they were going to have Ethiopia Day. So every culture was celebrated. She got so many civic awards for that. I mean, every single group in the entire city invited her and gave her an award. Then she got written up in the U.S. News and World Report as a school of excellence. But the most remarkable thing, and I'll never forget this, that year for the 4th of July, we're walking down the street in the city of New Bedford, Massachusetts, where her school was. Absolutely every single person knew who she was. Everyone. Mrs. Gorczyca, hello, hello, hello. And that is the power of a pencil. The power of 20,000, I don't care what it is. I don't care if it's a bumper sticker, a pencil, whatever. That is marketing. And sometimes we lose out on the smallest things that can make such a huge impact in getting your name out there in the community. And I think that that's a powerful story. Her school was given an award, being a school of excellence, and it became very well known just because of that mistake of getting the 20,000 pencils.
That's a lot easier than my first marketing story. Can I tell you my first marketing story?
Yes, please.
So I opened up my practice, and I had, it was basically Monday through Friday, a half day on Saturday. And so Sundays, I had nothing to do. So I got up, I got a map of my 5-mile radius, and I got a colored pencil highlighter, and I went down every single street, knocking on every single door, just saying, hey, my name's Howard Farran. I just graduated from dental school. I'm on the corner of 48th and Elliott. I'll be practicing here for 40 years. I just wanted to go out and shake everyone's hand and meet the neighborhood. It took me 6 months to knock on every single door, and it was the single best marketing I ever did. I mean,
well, good for you. And that's the way it's done. That's the way it's done, right? That's public relations. You know, how many hands can you shake? How many babies can you kiss?
Yeah. That was an amazing story. So then, so on your, well, first of all, you made reference to your book. How could my listeners find your book? What website? Where would they go?
My book is on Amazon. So if you go to Amazon and just put in dental marketing, it will come up. If you put my name, which is a little difficult to spell, but Anne Marie, the last name is Gorczyca, Gorczyca.
And is that
find my name.
And everybody's wondering, is that Russian, Ukrainian, or Polish?
It is Polish, and it means mustard seed. In Polish.
You know, I've lectured in Poland every 3 or 4 years for 20 years.
Oh, you're so lucky.
Oh my God, I love that place.
Take me with you, please.
And I love classical piano, and I love Chopin, and I love the stories about Chopin. Most people don't realize what Chopin is. People who play a lot of classical music can't play Chopin because he had a freakishly long reach between his thumb and his fingers. And if you're a little person and you're a great pianist, you just mechanically, physically can't play Chopin. Very, very wide reach. So that's how they find the book. So then go to teamwork. You're talking about, basically you could break everything into 6 categories: marketing, teamwork, treatment coordination, customer service, management systems, human resource management. What would you say about teamwork?
Well, teamwork, in my office, we have this little saying that we spell teamwork, TC-care, TCCARE. And what that stands for is trust, communication, commitment, accountability, results, and excellence. That's our little motto. And
Nice.
the thing I emphasize is the trust. Okay, we do a lot of work on team building, but that trust is a fundamental principle of teamwork. I don't know if you've ever read the book, The 5 Dysfunctions of a Team by Patrick Lencioni.
Yes.
Well, in that book, there is a trust exercise that you can do with your team. And it basically focuses on vulnerability. And you're asked questions like, what was the hardest thing you ever faced in your life? What was the most difficult challenge you ever overcame? And sharing things like that as a team, it builds the unity of the team. If you have someone who's not a team player, it becomes blatantly obvious when you do that exercise that they really are quiet and contained. They keep to themselves. They don't reach out to their teammates. And it's a good, very, very good exercise to do.
So when you have seen other dental offices where you think trust is an issue, what is going on to make trust an issue?
They're walking on eggshells. They just don't address the problem. They don't address the white elephant in the room, whatever that may be.
And what would be red flags? Because I believe a lot of doctors don't realize it's going on. What would be
What's a red flag? If you have, when you have a team meeting, it should be lively. And there should be a lot of discussion. And people should not be afraid to speak up and voice their opinion. When I have a team meeting, I individually call on every single member of my team, and I want them to talk about what they see, what is important to them. I frankly don't even want to talk.
True. I agree.
Because it's like, I'm the coach. I'm like Coach K. This is my basketball team. They've got the plays. They know what needs to be improved in the office. And I want to hear them, and I want to act on what they see needs to be improved. So I think if you have a team meeting and arms are folded and eyes are rolling and no one's talking, or if there's a meeting after the meeting, then you've got a trust issue and you do not have open communication.
And I'll give you another feedback of that is labs. Labs tell me that only 5% of dentists can they call and say, hey, Anne-Marie, on your preps, I wish you'd do this or a little more reduction. Or most labs are afraid that if I call you and tell you that your prep and impression is not perfect, that you'll change labs. And,
I would actually see that as a sign of excellence. Really, that's what you're paying them for. You want to be the best you can be. In fact, I tell my retainer maker, if you don't have a perfect impression, don't make the retainer. Call me and tell me I have to retake the impression. We have, in management systems, we have an agreement in my office. If that impression is not right, if you don't have the second molar, if it cracks when you take it out of the impression tray, just automatically call the patient and redo it, because that's our standard of excellence. Don't even ask me, just do it.
And the other thing I did during staff meetings is that when I was talking too much or too many people were asking me, I quit going to them for a long time. And because when I was gone, the office manager and the whole staff would talk, and I see dentist staff meetings as like a lecture. The dentist just goes out there and talks for an hour, and that's just not a meeting. I mean, it just needs to be all about staff. So TC Care. Trust was number one. What was C? The next C?
Communication.
Okay. Commitment.
Accountability. Results and excellence.
Okay, that is awesome. So treatment coordination. I have to ask you. I'm gonna ask you a specific question since you are orthodontist. Many consultants say that 95% of orthodontists get a treatment plan presenter. But in dentistry, it's not even 5%. Do you agree with those numbers? Is that true? What is your thoughts on that?
Well, I can't comment on general dentistry because I'm not a consultant. I don't go into general dental offices. But in the orthodontic world, because we're seeing multiple patients at a time, and our offices, I have 6 chairs and 6 patients at a time. We need a treatment coordinator. And our treatment coordinator is our right hand. It's perhaps the most important team member in the office. So orthodontists don't even consider practicing without a treatment coordinator.
Okay, so for all these viewers, explain what a treatment coordinator is and what does this person actually do and why are they so important?
Okay, well, someday when I write my book on treatment coordination, okay, I don't know what I'm going to title it, but the word sales is going to be in that title. And in dentistry and orthodontics, let's just get over it. Treatment coordination is sales. So my treatment coordinators, they're reading sales books. They're reading sales manuals. And if you want a reference, I think the most powerful sales book I've ever read is Jeffrey Gitomer, The Sales Bible. My team and I, we read that book maybe once a year. It's really, really excellent. And yeah, it's just very important. You mentioned in your lecture about your conversion rate. Orthodontists, every month, we look at our conversion rate. We're trained that every month, we have our team meeting, what's the conversion rate? And like you were saying Tuesday night, if you have a treatment coordinator and your success rate is 80, 90%, you've got a good one. If your success rate is 69%, that's the national average, that's an average one. And if your conversion rate is 45%, 50%, your treatment coordinator isn't very good.
And that Gitomer, is that G-I-D-E-M?
G-I-T-T-O-M-E-R.
G-I-T-T.
O-M-E-R.
O-M-E-R.
Yep. Yes.
Outstanding. And what is the any low-hanging fruit from that book? I mean, if you had to summarize that book to another dentist, what is the takeaway from that book? Or do you just recommend they just read it, just bite it and read it?
The one takeaway thing from that book is that when the treatment coordinator presents the information, and basically next thing they do is say, okay, so let's get you scheduled for Thursday at 2 o'clock.
So this book is written just for dentistry?
No, it's for all of business.
Oh, okay.
For all of business.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
no, this is a very well-known author. But the thing that he points out is at the end of your sale, I have to take a drink, excuse me.
Now you're Polish, so is that pure vodka you just slammed?
Yes.
Chopin vodka filtered 4 times?
Got a little tickle in my throat. But anyway, he emphasizes you're going to cut to the chase and say, okay, let's get you scheduled for Thursday at 2 o'clock. And then be quiet. Don't say anything. Whoever speaks next loses. And actually in dentistry, we probably unsell a lot of what we're trying to accomplish by talking too much. We scare the patients away. And you talked about this Tuesday night a little bit.
Very good.
Yeah. So that the other thing he talks about is when you get one of 5 hesitations, there are only 5 hesitations. I don't have them memorized at this second. I can try to come up with them, but it's usually like, I have to talk to my spouse. I have to think about it. It's too expensive. Excuse me. I have to go for a second opinion. When you get that response, continue the conversation. So when they say, I have to talk to my spouse, say, would you like to call them right now? Yes, call them right now. One time I had a patient, I'd like to talk to my spouse. Would you like to call him right now? Well, he's in the car. We'll go get him and bring him in. Let's get this taken care of. I think a lot of times we don't follow through. And we could close the deal right then and there, but we don't follow through with the next question. I have to think about it. Well, what will you be thinking about? Is it the price? Is it the location? Is it the service? What will you be thinking about? Well, maybe they're thinking about the price. Well, let's talk about the price. What's the problem with the price? Is it the down payment? Is it the payment plan? What is it? You need to go to the next step.
And Marie, do you think it makes me think of this might seem off topic, but it is in management. Some of the CEOs of these corporate chains, like Heartland Dental, are saying that half the dental students in school today will never own their own practice. You and I have seen this industry for many, many years and decades. Do you believe that's true?
No, I don't believe that's true.
And why is that?
I'll tell you why. Two things. Freedom and equity. You mentioned it Tuesday night. Why did you become a dentist? You became a dentist for the freedom of your lifestyle. The freedom to work the days you want to work. Also equity, in terms of retirement, in terms of stability. You want to own your own practice because you own something. And I worked in a group practice. It was a great opportunity for me as a young orthodontist. It was a great opportunity for 7 years. I got to set up a practice in a group practice where I didn't own it. So it was a great exercise. And I got to spend someone else's money. So it was even better. But if it were a great thing, I would have stayed there for the rest of my life. But you get to a point where you're at a ceiling. You have no equity, you have no freedom, and it's time to move on. So I think that it's an excellent stepping stone, and I think that it's good that there are opportunities for young dentists to work in group practices. But I've never heard a dentist say that that's their ultimate goal, to stay there for the rest of their life and work there for the rest of their life.
I agree. Back when I got out of school in '87, so many of my classmates felt so lucky that they got hired by the Army or the Navy or the Air Force, but it was a stepping stone. They hardly any of them said, "Oh yeah, I went to school because I want to do Army dentistry till I'm 65." That was like hardly anybody. It was both a stepping stone.
Yeah, and I think that's what it is now. Also.
And Marie, I don't want to. I don't know if I'm getting old fashioned or whatever, but is it just me or do you see it too? Do you think some of the average kid coming out of dental school might have less of a work ethic than we did in '87, or am I just old school? I mean,
we're a different generation, Howard. When I heard you speak the other night, and from what I know about you, you and I are a different generation. We have a very strong work ethic, and when I graduated, moved to California, I literally had $300 in my checkbook when I moved to California. I owned no car, and I had my first job at UCSF. I had a grant, and then I got another job teaching, and then I got another job in the group practice. I had 3 jobs. I worked 6 days a week. I worked till 8 p.m. at night. And that's the way it was. And the first car I bought was a used car from a woman whose husband died. It was a 75,000 mile Volkswagen Rabbit, and it was for $4,000, and I offered her $2,000, and I got the car, and I drove that for a while, and I got another car. I didn't buy my first house till I was 35. And I paid for everything as I went along. So, the students I have now at UOP, they graduate, and the day they graduate, they buy a new motorcycle and they put it on their credit card. Or they live in a rent-controlled apartment where they could live there for the next 10 years till they buy a house for $500 a month, but they move to a luxury $1,500 a month apartment. And the lifestyle expectations are different. And I also was taught that you don't buy a house till your business is set. So I didn't buy a house till my practice was built and I was financially set with my practice. Then I bought a house. I think some of the graduates think they're going to buy a house right away. So the other thing I see that's a little bit different is the orthodontic residents, who I love, and they're fantastic. But I always have this talk with them that when they graduate and they're looking at getting their first job, their goal is to get their foot in the door. Okay. When I graduated Northwestern, I have to tell you a funny story. I picked up the phone and I called T.M. Graber. He was about the most famous orthodontist at that time. And I called him because he was number one on my list and I wanted to work with him. So I pick up the phone and I say, hello, is this T.M. Graber? He said, yes. I said, is this really T.M. Graber? He goes, no, it's the President of the United States. What do you want? And I said, I want a job. He said, really? You do? Why don't you come on down here? Okay. I go down to his office. The salary was never discussed. And this is something that Warren Buffett, when he goes to speak to the MBA students at University of North Carolina, these school programs, he says, when you go for your job, say you're going to be considered for a CEO, the salary is not discussed. They're going to pay you what they think you are worth. And it is your goal to get that job and get your foot in the door. Once you're there, you can show them how great you are. Okay. And I tell the residents this and they go, well, what if I'm taken advantage of? And I'm like, what? You're going to be taken advantage of? Are you kidding me? I mean, this person is giving up part of their salary to educate you, train you, hire you. And you're thinking of yourself that you're going to be taken advantage of. Completely different mindset from, I think, our generation.
My mind is absolutely blown away by this next generation. I mean, I don't want to hack off all the dental students, but you sit there and talk to them and you say, well, is your practice, is it all about you? Is it dentist focused? Or is it about the patient focused? I go, oh, it's dentist focused. And after they've been whining about $300,000 in student loans and their office debt and all that stuff, what are your hours? Monday through Thursday, 8 to 5. It's like, that's not even a full-time job. I mean, my dad worked 7 to 7 days a week till he dropped dead. I mean, I opened up my practice 7 to 7 Monday through Saturday. And I'm like, okay, all you're whining about is all your debt, but you go home at 5 and they don't even cook. They eat out 19 and 30 meals. It's like, how do you leave at 5 and go to a nice restaurant? I mean, and then in dental school, they're all whining about their debt. And then I start asking questions. Well, have you ever used student loan money to go on spring break? Yes, every year. To Jamaica. How much did you spend on your spring break in Jamaica? $5,000. And I'm like, oh, so your $300,000 student loans, $20,000 was vacation money. And then another $30,000 was a car. And then they're living, I just like, wow. And then when Americans are anti-immigrant, it's like, it's only the wave of immigrants that keep the work ethic so high. By the time you're second, third, fourth generation American, you're just a spoiled brat.
Well, that's an interesting point. The other thing I'll just share with you is a lot of my friends in my generation, when we got out, we did whatever job we could get. And even if you were an orthodontist, if you didn't have a job, you'd go to a temp agency and you'd say, I can be a receptionist. I can be a hygienist. What job do you have for me? I mean, one of my best friends, excellent orthodontist practicing now in Oakland, California, a huge practice. She got out of University of Washington, Seattle, moved to the Bay Area. She couldn't get a job. So she went to a temp agency. She worked as a hygienist, like 6 days a week. And finally, she worked for a very nice female dentist whose husband happened to be an orthodontist. And the orthodontist's wife said, hey, I know this great orthodontist. She's working in my office as a hygienist. Why don't you hire her? And that's how she got her first associateship.
I tell older dentists looking for associate, I said, let me give you a couple of pointers. If the dentist applied, you have two applications applying for a job. If one wasn't born in the United States and one was, oh my God, get this one. I don't care what country they came from. If they weren't born in the United States, because I have two huge observations that many of my consultant friends have noticed. If you're graduating dental school and you weren't born in the United States, your consumption spending will be here and you'll be out of debt in 5 years. If you were born in the United States, your entire life, you'll be paying interest on the cars that you buy, the houses you buy, the eating out. And if they were born in the United States, they're done at 5 o'clock and they have 3-day weekends. And if they were born in Laos, Cambodia, Vietnam, Russia, Czechoslovakia, Africa, Brazil, if they were born anywhere else, and at 5 o'clock, someone walks in with a toothache, they were settled till 7 and finish the root canal, build up, crown. I mean, that's just... the work ethic is just amazingly different. Do you agree, or do you think that's just a racist comment against my own people?
Oh my goodness. Well, I do agree. And, I mean, all we can do is just work on it, try to improve it, try to explain it.
Yeah. And then, so that you talked about your 6 lectures: marketing, teamwork, treatment coordination. The next 3 were customer service, management systems, human resource management. Tell us more about those. Go to customer service, number 4.
Well, customer service, it's a lot of greeting the patient. You know, do you have a greeter at your front desk? Whoever sits closest to the door, they should have on their computer terminal the names of the 4 or 5 or how many new patients you have that day with the times that they are walking into your office. And they should be waiting for those new patients so that the minute they walk in, they stand up, they extend their hand, welcome to the office. How can I help you? Please have a seat. May I get you a drink? So it begins at the beginning of the appointment, that the patient is greeted, that they get a warm welcome. And throughout the entire appointment, an office tour, you want everyone on your team to be smiling. You want them to look good. And at the end, you give them a fond farewell and you thank them for choosing your office and for coming to your office. Oh, and the customer service, it's no different than Walt Disney World or the Ritz-Carlton. You know, you're aiming for quality customer service. And the highest level of customer service is knowing your patient individually. What are their likes? What are their dislikes? Knowing them as an individual so that you can make them happy and you can talk about what they want to talk about. The talk in the office should be all focused on the patient. I tell my team, I don't care if you talk about Dancing with the Stars, as long as you go up to the patient and you say to the patient, Nancy, did you watch Dancing with the Stars last night? And you have the conversation with her if she wants to talk about it. But what I never want to have is my team having a conversation between themselves and they're not interacting with the patient. And that's something we have to be careful of, that we're always focused on the patient.
I've only got your amazing mind for 6.5 more minutes. You still got to cover 2 more: management systems and human resource management. So what would you say about those 2 things in 6.5 minutes, starting with management systems?
Management systems, have some management systems, okay? One thing you said Tuesday night that I absolutely loved, and you're the only person I've heard say it other than me, is every person in your office should be cross-trained, okay? That is so important. Every person in my office is cross-trained. And actually, we have a grid that every person in the office is a champion of something, okay? So we have an insurance champion. But who is her number 1 replacement? Who's the number 2? Who's the number 3? Who's the number 4? Who's the number 5? Every person in the office should be trained how to do insurance. Every person in the office should know the management system. So many dentists are held hostage because only one person in the office knows how to do the deposit or one person knows how to write the contract. And you've got to put the time in to cross-train everybody. Not only is it excellent for backup, but it teaches respect among the team members for the difficulty of each other's jobs. So, for example, if the front office understands the back office, how difficult it is to seat the patient on time, finish up on time, clean up on time, restock the unit. And if the back office realizes how hard it is to schedule an appointment when the phone's ringing and you've got 3 people deep standing at the front desk, they're going to get along a lot better as a team, and they're going to respect each other more as a team. So cross-training is just an A+ thing that you can do in your office. It's worth the time and attention that you put to it. And it is a military thing. Like you said, you can look for the military, or you could look to a baseball team or a basketball team that, you're always thinking, okay, what if this person's out sick? What if this person's injured? Who's going to step in and keep the flow going? I like that concept. And you're the only person I've heard talk about that, other than, I've thought about that for a lot of years, and I've done that. And I think it's one of the reasons my HR costs are very low. They've always been very low because everyone can do every job.
It also prevents embezzlement. I mean, when I look at many of the consultants say if they go into any office and do a check for embezzlement, they find embezzlement half the time. It's usually by someone who is the only one who does, the deposits, write check. They have all the functions in one person. No one else is cross-trained to know what they're doing. And then the last thing I should say, I hope you don't find it inappropriate, is that person is having relations with the dentist, and it can be, and they're braver to do this because they ever got caught. They have blackmail on the dentist.
Well, that's very sad. It's very sad. But you're absolutely right. I think in terms of cash, first of all, in my office, I have a sign at the front desk. We do not accept cash. I don't really want cash. If someone pays cash, great, I'll take it. But we're not encouraging cash. And we put the sign at the front desk. We do not accept cash because I don't want to be robbed. So I want anyone who would come into my office to think I have absolutely no cash in my office. Then one person at noon deposits the checks, collects the cash or whatever. A different person at the end of the day does the deposit. The cash is given every night to me, the doctor. I deposit it in the window myself. So they know that every night I am checking the cash. I am taking it myself to the bank.
So then last but not least, in 2 minutes, explain human resource management.
Okay, well, human resource management basically is divided into 6 sections. It starts with the recruitment of team members. It moves on to the integration, the first 90 days of team members. Then it goes to the daily schedule of team members, the evaluation of team members, the cost of team members, and then finally the termination of undesirable team members. That's all of human resource management. The thing that my new book will point out that I think is very, very important is that there are desirable work behaviors and there are undesirable work behaviors. And these are well known in the HR world. They've been studied by psychologists. They're known by HR experts. And every dentist should know what are those behaviors. And I have them here, so I'll read them to you, okay? So you get a team member. These are the desirable behaviors. There are 8. They should be willing to fill in for any job that needs to be done. They should volunteer to help. They should take initiative to get things done. They should assist the doctor. They should assist their teammates. They should improve the office so that when they're absent, they should be missed. If someone's absent and your office actually runs better, you should get rid of that person. They should be punctual. And they should have excellent attendance. Okay, those are desirable behaviors. Those are 8 things you could grade your team on, give them a score. Here are the undesirable behaviors. They exaggerate their work hours, excessive overtime, etc. They start rumors. They gossip. They make mistakes. They compete with their teammates. They're out of sight. They disappear. They're out of sight. They take things. They blame others, and they work slow. Okay, those are 9 things that if you have a team member and they're exhibiting those bad habits, that's not a good team member. And at some point, you've got to cut the cord and say, you know, I can get someone better than this. Another thing in my book, I list a 12-step interview process. And I describe the interview process as dating, okay? You are making a decision to hire a person that you're going to spend the rest of your life with. I mean, you've got team members that have been with you for 20-something years. You don't jump into that decision. So I talk about how you're going to interview the person. Hopefully you do a working interview. You ask for the feedback of your team members. You do a second working interview. And then you make the decision. And in my office, we do it by unanimous decision. If there's a team member who says, I don't think this person's going to gel, then you don't hire them. You know, I think if there's a dental office where the doctor alone is making the decision, that's not a good way to hire someone. Steve Jobs in his book wrote, you hire a new person, it's the team that decides who to hire, not necessarily the CEO of the company.
So this second book, Beyond the Morning Huddle, is that out now?
No. Well, Howard, you just got your copy of the manuscript. This week, it went out to 8 people that I would consider dental experts in HR. You're one of them. And I'd like to get everyone's feedback. I'd like to get an endorsement. And the editor also received the manuscript this week. It's probably going to take 2 or 3 months for me to, get it a little bit more fine-tuned. And then when that's done, I'm going to send it to Bruce Tolgan, who's going to write the foreword for the book. My goal is I want to get it out by April. And in May 2015, I'll be giving this talk at the AAO in San Francisco.
So will you send me an email with a JPEG of your first book and then how to order that and all that? Tell them about your first book again.
Sure. Okay, so thanks so much, Howard. I really appreciate this. The first book is called, It All Starts with Marketing, 201 Marketing Tips for Growing Your Dental Practice. And these 201 tips are things that I've done in my practice over the last 25 years. I guarantee you that every one of those tips will lead to a new patient, okay, that has worked in my practice. It's on Amazon. You can just go under Dentistry, put in marketing, and you will see it, or you can put my name. And then the second book will be out in April 2015.
Well, that was the fastest hour. I even went into overtime, hour and 3 minutes. Seriously, I just think you're an amazing person. You're my favorite orthodontist. I love your energy, your karma, your passion. Thank you so much for spending an hour with me on a Friday afternoon out of your busy schedule.
Well, same to you, Howard. I feel the same way about you.
All right. Well, have a great...
Let's do it again.
Let's do it again.
Okay. Thanks a lot, Howard. Bye.